Oh, good morning everybody. It's Thursday the 5th of December 2024 when I'm making this video, and as you can see by the title it says riding the running course. So what happened this morning is about 6 o'clock I got to this starting point where you can just see me now, and I went for my morning run, which is about 12.2 kilometres. It took me about an hour and 14 minutes to do that, so I'm certainly not going to enter the record books for seniors or the fastest time or any of those sort of things. My pace was about 6.06 minutes per kilometre, which was I wouldn't say slow, but then not great. The day before I had run a similar course, most of this same course, with a pace of 5:57 per kilometre, so it was a little slower than that. But in any case, to get to the point, I ran this course this morning at about 6 o'clock, and as I say, it took me an hour and 14 minutes to do it. Then I decided just to show the viewers what the course looked like. I got on my motorcycle, which I had ridden to that starting point, and rode around the same course so you could see it. Now, normally if you watch any of my running videos, you would be seeing the camera, which was you would be seeing the run and the course from the view of the camera, which I wear on a chest harness, and mostly you would see my hands moving up and down and listening to me huffing and puffing and heavily breathing and feet slapping on the ground and so on. This time, of course, I'm on the motorcycle, on the Spyder, and the camera's on the left-hand mirror on one of those clips that it slides into, and so you're getting a different view of the course. Now, this section here, I'm heading east out of Goulburn on what is called the Windellama Road, or Bungonia Road it is called at this point, because it goes towards the Bungonia, goes to the Bungonia National Park, and you'll see some signs indicating the turn off to that. But then I ran beyond there and took a right-hand turn heading south towards Canberra. You'll see that as it comes up. But so at the moment, I'm going up a bit of a short rise, as you can see there, and I will shortly come to the bridge that is the overpass to the Goulburn bypass. So underneath this bridge I'm about to cross is the Hume Highway as it's bypass Goulburn, dual carriageway in both directions. Now, while I'm riding and talking, as well as telling you a little bit about the running course, and you can see most of what I would want to tell you anyway, I'll make a few observations about the motoring market. And I'm by no means an expert at the motoring market, and I'm not putting myself forward as an expert on the motoring market. I don't spend my day studying sales figures and sales trends and all that sort of stuff, but I do watch a lot of people who commentate on the motoring market. And they do spend a lot of their time poring over sales figures and sales charts and which models are selling and which brands are selling and so on. And there seems to me at the moment to be the motoring world is divided, or the motoring manufacturing world is divided into two camps. And that one camp is what are called legacy manufacturers. Those are the people who have been making cars almost since the beginning of time, or beginning of motor vehicle manufacture, or certainly for a long time. Companies like General Motors, Ford, VW, Toyota, and so forth. So there are the legacy manufacturers, and you can see I've just made that turn now, and I'm going in a southerly direction along a road called Brisbane Grove Road. And then there are the newer makers, which are mostly Chinese manufacturers, that is Chinese companies, as well as companies that make their cars in China, like Kia and Tesla, for example. But mostly they are Chinese companies like MG, which is part of a much bigger conglomerate I know, BYD, Chery, and so forth. And it seems to me that the newer manufacturers are causing a lot of disruption in the market. And if things that I hear and see are to be believed, then there is a lot of disruption in the market. There is a lot going on in the market at the moment, and some of the legacy manufacturers are facing fairly serious outlook, and maybe some of them will not survive. There is talk that For example, Nissan, I've been quoted, or Nissan executives have been quoted as saying, if they don't find a new investor in 12 to 14 months, they'll be out of business. Now, I don't know whether that's scaremongering or that's the truth or not. And I suspect if you're an executive at Nissan, you'll probably do okay. But if you're someone on the factory floor, I don't know what the situation in in Japan is as far as unemployment benefits go. But I suspect if that is the case, lots of factory workers will lose their jobs, and they may not have a lot in the way of income support and so on. There also seems to be a lot of consternation about the state of or the health of VW at the moment. And there are talk of factories being closed and production being paused, and up to 120,000 workers are threatened with losing their jobs. Now, again, I don't know if all of that is the case, or some of it is just fear-mongering, or some people have got things sort of misinterpreted the data that they are seeing and so on. But I'd like to suggest that in the case of VW, there is perhaps one overlooked reason for why, if this is the case, and if there is a severe downturn in their sales and so on, if it is the case, why it might be the case. As I said, it's certainly true that the newer makers from China are disrupting the market by producing lots of cars and exporting them, and in some cases it's alleged they are selling those vehicles at below cost in order to get rid of them and get them off the factory parking lot. Huge discounts have applied in Australia, where the factories have said, we're not going to pay to ship these cars back to China or to another right-hand market. Discount them till you sell them, because some money is better than no money. So it is true that the Chinese manufacturers are causing disruption to the market. But if you cast your mind back a few years ago to the so-called Dieselgate scandal that affected VW, where VW deliberately set about finding a way to cheat emissions testing by somehow jiggling the software in their vehicle so the car could work out when it was on a rolling road in a lab and when it was actually on the road, and produce a different emissions figure for both situations. They were eventually caught in what was a criminal enterprise, and huge fines were levied against the company. People were fired, other people fell on their swords, and numerous apologies were made, and compensation was even offered. But one of the things that I think was overlooked in all of that, as well as the drain on the company's financial reserves to pay the huge fines and no doubt pay some of those executives the huge payouts they received, was the reputational damage. One thing consumers don't like is being played for a mug. They don't like being burned. And so if you were a person who up until that point had always had VWs, or had bought a VW and was very satisfied with it and thought they were quality cars and well made and nicely put together and good performance and all the other things that you look for in a motor vehicle, and you suddenly found out that your car had been involved in some cheating scandal on emissions, and that the manufacturer in some cases was required to fix that car, but in other cases was not. I understand, for example, in Germany that the consumer laws required the cars be fixed, but in the Czech Republic, which is only next door, the consumer laws did not require those vehicles to be fixed. But so if you found out that your vehicle and the manufacturer of your vehicle was cheating you, you're unlikely to buy another VW. You're unlikely to buy another one. It's as simple as that. You think, well, I got burnt the last time I bought a VW, and when I go to trade this in, it won't be worth much because people will know it's part of the cheating scandal. The salespeople at the place where I go to trade it in will know it's part of the cheating scandal, and they'll know I've been compensated for it. I may have even had a recall and fixed it. But they'll still know that it was part of the cheating scandal, so I probably won't get as much for it as I should have done. So if you were a existing VW customer and you were burnt, you're unlikely to buy one. If you were not loyal to a particular brand, but were in the market for a new car, and you'd read about that and followed it in any way and thought, gee, these VW people are not very good, are they? Their business practices are not, they're a bit shonky, would be a polite way to put it. I was thinking about a VW, but now I'm not going to consider one. Now I don't want to buy one. And if you add those two groups of customers together and the reputational damage that was done to the company, that might explain in part. I'm not suggesting it's the only explanation, but I'm suggesting that it is in part an explanation for the downturn in sales and some of the woes that VW are experiencing at the moment. And that's not just VW itself, it's all their sub-brands, so Porsche, Audi, and the Skoda, and the various other brands that are under the umbrella of VW. So, it's always a case of the customer has to do their research, but the customer is always right. And the customer decides not to buy your vehicle for whatever reason, whether it's allegedly shoddily put together, poorly performed, after-sale service isn't any good, whatever the reason is. If the customers don't buy your vehicle, then you end up with a parking lot full of vehicles, and you can discount them in some cases, and maybe you'll sell them. In other cases, maybe you won't. Okay, so we're probably 3/4 of the way into this ride now. It's about 8 kilometres out of the 12 kilometres, and I'm heading in a generally northerly direction down what is called Sloane Street in Goulburn, going back towards the railway, or the railway is on the right-hand side there. Goulburn used to be at one stage a very big railway town, but as railways have been run down in certainly urban, rural areas and country areas, both the passenger and the freight business has been run down. The number of employees working on the railway is not as many as it used to be in the past. So those Chinese manufacturers that I was speaking about, as I say, they are causing a disruption in the market by there's a promise that lots of new models are coming from various makers, including one I had never heard of, JQ, which is a subsidiary of Chery, and XPeng is another, who are both promising to bring a number of models to Australia next year. And as I've said before in other videos, I'm not trying to sell you a car. I'm not advocating one brand over another. I don't own an electric vehicle. I have no connections to anyone who makes them, imports them, or sells them. My only observation is that the Chinese do seem to be, how shall I describe this, vigorous in their determination to offer a variety of vehicles to the Australian market. And whereas some of the so-called legacy manufacturers who have not gotten quite as deeply into the EV side of manufacturing as the Chinese have are finding it difficult to meet the new vehicle emission standards that the government passed earlier this year, the Chinese manufacturers who are offering a combination of combustion vehicles along with hybrids, both standard hybrids and plug-in hybrids and EVs, are going to find that they easily meet those emissions control standards, and they may even be in a position to say to some of the legacy manufacturers, well, if you're struggling to meet the standards, you can buy credits from us because we are easily meeting it. Whether Australians take to these brands and decide to buy these models is yet to be seen. And it was, as I mentioned earlier in this broadcast video, it may be the case that in some instances when these vehicles land here, that the prices are discounted in order to sell them. When Harvey Norman have an end of financial year sale or a Black Friday sale or a New Year's sale or whatever, that's just called good business, to get stock off the floor, to sell stock that's been sitting around for a long time. When car manufacturers discount to sell stock, somehow they're considered to be doing something unethical. It's true that when you discount the price of the vehicle, the one that somebody bought the week before at the old price is now worth less, but the manufacturer doesn't really care about that because they've already got your money. If you bought the vehicle at the old price, they're going to get somebody's money who buys the vehicle at the new price, and what happens to the resale value of your car isn't their problem because they don't get any money out of that. Only the dealer and maybe the salesman who eventually sells your second-hand car with his commission gets some out of that. So that the manufacturers, be they MG, BYD or Ford or anybody else for that matter, doesn't really care about the resale value of your vehicle. They may care if you're not inclined to then go back and buy another, saying, well, I got burned with the first one, so I won't be buying another MG or another Ford or another whatever it is. But I guess I'll cross that bridge when they come to it. Well, we're almost back to the starting point, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the commentary and the scenery and had a bit of a glimpse into what it's like to try and run the 12k run that I did this morning. And I'll catch you in the next video. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comments section, and when I'm aware of them, I will respond. Enjoy your day, whatever it is you're doing, and I will talk to you when I'm making the next motorcycling video.